Hello again and welcome to part 2 of our Movement Guide series. My name is Thomas, also known as Blubby, and in this video we're going to take a deeper look at the different types of strafes you can use to open up angles in Valorant and how you should use them in your games. In part 1 of this series we looked at the fundamentals of strafing. In part 2 we are going to build upon that and look at the practical use of movement and different strafing variations. So if you don't yet feel comfortable with your strafes, or just haven't watched part 1 of the series yet, I'd recommend you to go and do that right now before continuing with this video. Right, we know how to strafe. We can use movement in combination with gunplay, so let's now look at the practical implementation of strafing into your game. Opening up angles is probably the scenario where you rely on movement the most. Contrary to holding an angle, where you mostly rely on your crosshair placement and timing, you now need to dynamically open up an angle to engage your opponent. There are many ways to do this, and which approach is the best in a moment really depends on the in-game situation and your intentions. So let's now look at some strafing variations and how you could use them to create an advantage for yourself when fighting an opponent. Angle advantage is a major factor in pretty much all of these situations, so if you need further information on it, check out our angle advantage short before continuing with the video. It is linked right here. Short strafing means quickly tapping A or D to do mini strafes that are short enough not to make any noise. This is the type of movement you will want to use to slowly clear out an area without revealing your position. A lot of people tend to shift walk around corners in this situation, but by doing that they make themselves an easier target, compared to using short strafes which allow you to dynamically open up angles at almost the full strafing speed without revealing your position, making them a more dynamic alternative to sneaking around corners. Stutter steps are a variation of the short strafes, where you do even smaller and faster strafes, and basically never leave the speed at which you shoot perfectly accurate. They should be used when you want to open up an angle to peek your opponent, but you are not yet sure how far you have to open it. So to not overcommit, you use stutter steps to open up the angle dynamically bit by bit, and once you see your opponent, you're instantly ready to shoot and kill him. The default peek is the way to open up angles you will probably use the most. It is best used to peek common defending angles and often allows for easy pre-fire kills, and is usually the way you want to open up angles with if you don't have intel on your opponent's positions when moving around the map. This type of peek will usually give you an advantage over your opponent if you place the default angle, and at least guarantees you a fair chance at fighting any opponent that is playing an off angle, as long as you are focused on clearing positions. To execute this peek, make sure you are as far away from the angle as possible, pre-aim the position you want to peek, and then do a quick strafe out to open up the angle while being ready to fire the instant you see an opponent. Wide swinging is a great way to catch your opponent off guard if he's holding you and you know where he's playing from. For this peek, you want to play really close to the corner, pre-aim your opponent's position, and then swing out wide before killing him. This is important. The closer to the wall or corner you swing from, the faster you'll appear on your opponent's screen, so make sure you pay attention to that in your setup. This type of peek is almost impossible to react to unless he anticipates it and places his crosshair very far from the angle from the get-go. So if you know your opponent's position and he's not aware of yours, this is an almost guaranteed way of killing him. Let's take the time to look at a practical example to analyze some in-the-moment decision making. We're going back to the scene on Breeze. Why didn't I just swing to try and kill the jet here? Let's first analyze the situation. It is a 1 vs 1 and the bomb has just been planted by my opponents, so there's plenty of time for me to play out the afterplant to my advantage, as I'm not forced to rush her to try and reach a quick resolution. Also, she's got a sheriff and I only have a classic, and we are pretty far apart, putting me at a severe weapon disadvantage. Back to the first question. After spotting her, why didn't I just swing her? First off, she also saw me, meaning she will likely reposition and hold me as I only have one angle to peek from, and my crosshair placement would be off because she moved, making the swing much harder. Second, because she saw me, she might anticipate the swing and hold wide, making me an easy kill if I went for it. And lastly, I'm at a weapon disadvantage. I need 2 headshots to kill her, while she only needs 1 or 2 body shots, meaning if I engage her openly, she has much better odds at killing me unless she whiffs. That's why I use mini strafes to try and scout her position, while being ready to shoot the instant I spot her and instantly retrieve back to safety. Afterwards, I try to close the distance to get in range for a right-click finish, but she anticipates it and instantly re-peeks me. So now, with her needing just one body shot to finish me off, and me needing a headshot or really good right-click, I'm again at a weapon disadvantage. I don't want to swing, because she'd most likely kill me as she only has to hold for a body shot. Also, she might swing me, and I want to be ready for that. She could also try to move to a better position. Valid options for her would be main or elbow to play for the bomb, or moving around the pillar to try and kill me from behind. To prevent that, I need to open up the angle from main to gather intel, while maintaining a good position for the potential peek behind pillar. So I use stutter steps to open up the main angle, and luckily in this situation, I just find her there for an easy kill. Had she not been main, my next step would have been to hold the peek behind pillar, and if she wasn't playing there, I would have tapped the bomb and held elbow, as that would have been the most likely position for her to be playing. Alright, I know that was a lot, but I really hope that this in-depth analysis will help you better put your newly acquired theoretical knowledge into game practice. Let's now take a look at one more advanced strafing variation before we get to the end of the video. Jiggle peeking is a good way to get some safe shots off onto a position where the opponent is likely to peek at any moment, or is already holding you if you don't want to commit to the fight. You will want to play close to the corner, then do a mini strafe out and instantly pre-fire the position and strafe back. This is definitely one of the more difficult ways to peek, and your strafe timing needs to be on point, so only do this if you feel confident in your ability to time your shots right. Now, all of these examples covered situations in which the opponents were either known or played common positions. But what if they play off angles? You always have to be aware of all the possible positions your opponents could be playing on the map when clearing areas, including off angles. However, you wouldn't really want to peek off angles the same way you would peek default angles. A, because your opponents usually won't have the favorite angle in the position and rely on the surprise factor, and B, because you might open yourself up to a more likely position to be held from when properly peeking the off angle. That's why you will usually want to be as far away from the angle as possible, and use short strafes or stutter steps to peek these positions, ensuring a fair duel if you're thorough with your clear. Now, there's one more movement option to clear off angles with that I have to talk about, and that is slow or shift walking. Just keep in mind that this way of clearing is inferior to the more dynamic strafing variations, such as short strafes or stutter steps, as it will make you a much easier target for your opponent. But it is a little bit faster to clear positions this way, so if you have very little time left in the round, you might have to opt for this one instead. To clear angles while slow walking, just hold down shift or whatever button you have assigned walk to, and well, walk around the corner. Focus on keeping your distance to the corner to ensure the biggest possible angle advantage, move with A or D, and try to track around the corner with your crosshair to be ready to shoot the instant you see an opponent. To finish off this tutorial, let's take a look at this exemplary clear of B main Ascent, combining these movement techniques to safely clear out all the angles. We shift walk into B main and hug the left wall to ensure the biggest possible angle advantage for ourselves. We now slowly clear the aggressive off angles using stutter steps, and then default peek to open up the defending angle from B main entrance. Afterwards, we use short strafes to clear the defensive off angles a Chamber, Reyna or Jet could be holding, for example, and lastly hug the wall behind us to again use stutter steps to safely clear out cubby. Now, the next step would be to use short strafes to clear the off angle at locks, and after that, we'd be ready to default peek the common angles on B, first market, then CT, then stairs. Properly clearing positions like this will seem like a lot of conscious effort to you at first, having to create an image of all the possible defending angles in your head, deciding which peeking variation to use, actually taking the time to properly execute the peeks and constantly staying focused while doing so. It really is a lot. But the more you do it and the more you force yourself to consciously think about all of these decisions, the more they are going to settle into your unconscious mind and become good habits that you'll just naturally apply without having to think about them. Just like in part 1 of this series, where we had to adapt to a new motor skill, this will take time and effort on your side to settle in, but it will greatly improve your gameplay and be worth it in the end. Alright, this concludes the second part of our Movement Guide series. In the final part, we'll go in depth about how to use your movement in actual fighting scenarios, and I'm looking forward to seeing you again. Until then, much love, bye!